Good afternoon, my friends. Welcome to Kardec After Lunch, part of spiritismstudy.org and hosted by Kardec Radio. Remember to download Kardec Radio's app, available free of charge for Android or iPhone, and listen to our programs and podcasts, such as this one. Also, feel free to send questions or comments to Kardec Radio's Twitter account. And be aware that all of this work is done by volunteers, but there are costs associated with web and app hosting, along with broadcast and publishing. So if you're able to, please be kind and donate so this work of love may continue for many years to come. God bless. Um, Thank you, Fernanda, for your support. Today, we are going to be reading for about 15 minutes, reading a commentary of one of Kardec's works, Medium's book being the case on this one. And we do this during the day. Try to reach you during your daily routine, during your work time. So, because we believe that many times people treat, perhaps unintentionally, but they treat the spiritism as a extracurricular activity, something that is not entirely uh, applicable to your daily life, which in reality it is of utmost importance that you do try to apply those lessons in your daily life. And I like to think that spiritism, a quick way to gauge if spiritism is really making a change in your life, if it has changed the way you think, the way you speak, and finally the way you act. So if you can make a quick assessment, self-assessment yourself, and see if that's really taking root and is making changes, then we'll be very happy to hear. And happy to hear from Tony Torres from California. Thank you for uh, joining us. Also, Vanessa has joined us. Thank you for your support. Vanessa is one of the Kardec Radio's team, make all of this possible. And Kardec Radio will be completing 9 years this year. We just celebrated 8 years last year. It was a very good celebration. We're really happy of all people that put in, that work to make this happen and continue to do so. So, but also one quick news here. Thank you, Andrea, for your support. Um, Recently, the International Spiritist Council, if you can Google, or I can I'm going to put the link here in this video afterwards, has made this whole collection of those 5 basic books available for download on their website as PDF. So even if you don't have this book, and I suggest you follow along or reading, you can now actually go there and download and follow along, and even make highlights on that PDF of, so add notes or just put bookmarks, right? So very, very good tool. And it's the really beneficial to us when we don't just read the doctrine, but we make notes, we make highlights, we read it again, a second, a third, a fourth time, because every time we read it, we will read with different eyes. We're going to have a different mindset, and we're going to be paying attention and considering things in a different light. So, but let's go ahead. Last time we stopped our reading on chapter 5. We're talking about the spontaneous physical manifestations. We are on page 134 of this specific edition, if you have it. And we are on item, let me see here, number 98. We're actually on the second and a half page of it, but let's read it. And this is a message from the Spirit. For now, I'm not allowed to reveal to you the particular laws that govern the gases and fluids that surround you. However, before many years have passed, before the duration of a normal incarnate existence has expired, the explanation of such laws and phenomena will be revealed to you, and you will see the appearance and development of a new variety of mediums who will fall into a particular cataleptic state as soon as they are mediumnized. Now, remember, keep in mind that this was written in the middle of the 19th century in Europe. So some of those happenings, if I can put it this way, uh, did, of course, took place, but likely unbeknownst to us, because much of what took place in Europe in the middle of the 19th century um, is not available, is not really, has not propagated in a way that we have this knowledge. For example, is Spiritism as a doctrine, although being quite propagated throughout the world, uh, it's almost a foreign and unknown concept here in the United States. So one very important thing that I do, it helps cement this knowledge, helps us with our learning, is every time we're reading, not just keep that in mind that it was written in the middle of the 19th century, try to become acquainted with um, society, historical, mm, historical facts of that time, but also do take a time to look up new words, historical figures, places that show up, because all this helps with the recollection of this knowledge later on. And as I mentioned, what really matters in our development as a spirit, which is our responsibility, is when the time comes, the opportunity presents itself to us to make an improved choice in our thoughts, words, and actions, we do utilize our free will accordingly, right? So let's continue here. You have seen how many difficulties are involved in the production of apportations. Apportations being the spirit, along, of course, with a medium, being able to materialize objects. So sorry, I mean, the appearance of actually creating objects, which in reality they they don't create it. They get this object from a different place. They're able to make it, put it this way, invisible, uh, and transport it elsewhere, and then of course make it reappear. You can logically conclude that phenomena of this nature are extremely rare, as I have already stated. So much more reason for spirits not to trouble themselves with producing them, because it requires on their part an almost materialistic effort, which is tedious and wearisome to them. Besides, it so happens that very frequently, despite the spirit's energy and will, the state of the medium sets up an insurmountable barrier. So uh, you see that there, of course, there were the reason, the time, and the place for mediumistic effects of the material type that had to happen to develop our curiosity, right? To research what was behind it. And that's exactly what happened with Kardec. If you have the opportunity, please, if you haven't done so, check Kardec movie on Netflix, and will have an idea of how this took place. Um, so one thing that I really like about this movie about Kardec is it humanizes him, and it gives the opportunity to why am not would not be able to follow some of those same steps and apply that level of research, you know, that will change, myself as a human being, because it did change Kardec. He was a skeptical at first, but he went after that knowledge, research it, collect it, analyze it, and arrive at this being one example, right? Let's continue. It is therefore obvious, and I have no doubt that you will accept this fact, that the perceptible phenomena of raps, movements, and levitation are simple in nature and can be performed by concentrated and dilating certain fluids. And they can also be caused and precipitated by the will and effort of capable mediums, if they are seconded by friendly and benevolent spirits. Apportation phenomena, on the other hand, are multiple, complex in nature, and require the existence of special conditions. In addition, they can be performed only when just one spirit and one medium are involved. And besides all the resources needed to produce tangible phenomena, they require a very special combination to isolate and render invisible the object or objects to be apported. Hello, Gabriel. Thank you for joining. So, every one of you spiritists has comprehended my explanations and has realized perfectly well that this concentration of special fluids is what is needed to produce the mobility and tactility of inert matter. You have accepted it just as you have accepted the phenomena of electricity and magnetism, which are so analogous to mediumistic phenomena and which confirmation and development. So you understand, it is uh, a lot of the scientific part of what we have seen here uh, and described in the doctrine. It's actually confirmed by further scientific research. Some of the terms used during in the doctrine are perhaps antiquated and no longer in use, in common use. And of course, we have to, let's say, make this little mental exercise and substitute mentally where needed. Um, for example, and this is not particularly applicable to this situation, but in the doctrine, wherever possible, I like to substitute the word evil for ignorance. Because, in my view, and I imagine most of you will agree to this, evil is just a byproduct of our ignorance, right? Evil by itself, as an entity, as a personified and some does not exist. God did not create evil. We create evil by our ignorance. And by developing ourselves, by improving our standing in morality and knowledge, we'll be able to create less and less evil, right? Create more and more good, which really it's what we're created for. Uh, as for disbelievers and academics, or members of the academic, it is not my duty to convince them, and I am not even concerned about them. They will someday be convinced by the factual evidence, for they will have to bow down before the unanimous testimony of spirit phenomena, just as they have already been forced to do with respect to other phenomena that they rejected at first. So, um, just to mention, in the movie Kardec, it shows us how Kardec, while before being a very respected member of a particular French scientific research society, it was rebuffed and ousted afterward, is expelled from that circle because of his publications in Spiritism. So we just have a hope that those spirits, not the persons, but the spirits who have rejected them at first, have had the chance since then to acknowledge, this new fact, this new confirmable part of our life, and you know, taking steps to remedy that situation, which is really is their responsibility. Um, we are getting to the end of our 15 minutes. I hope I have perhaps brought to you some knowledge that you are not familiar with before. But even if you were, the intent really is just to make it clear to you that this information, not particularly this that we just touch upon, but the process of reading Kardec and sequentially in a rational and logical, format, and above all, trying as possible to do it in a group will help you immensely. So, thank you very much for your support. Thank you for your time, and for all of Kardec Radio. Until next time, Godspeed to all.